We're here this morning with Professor Keun-Wook Paik, who's a Senior Research Fellow at the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. Welcome to Oil and Money. Just to kick off, I'd like to ask you a general industry question and ask you what you think the biggest challenges are facing the industry or how they have changed in the last year.
I would say the most difficult challenges at this moment is the depressed oil price. And then on top of that, there are a lot of uncertainties how to cope with the situation. And then, yes, there are many ideas and suggestions, but still industry itself is struggling to cope with this pressure from the low oil price. So if the price is returning to a certain level, let's just say 60 barrels per barrel, then it will give us some scope to overcome the difficulties. But during last 2 years, if the oil price is remaining in the 40s and 50s at that level continuously, then it will give it too much pressure. So we have to see how industry will cope with this low oil price pressure.
So you are one of the world's leading experts on Sino-Russian energy relations. But do you feel that the energy alliance between Russia and India is actually now surpassing the one between Russia and China?
This is a very important initiative from Russia's viewpoint. Actually, Russia has taken initiative for pivot to Asia policy, because they are very worried about this LNG export from America, which is starting from this year. So Shell Revolution, which opened the door for U.S. A large scale of U.S. LNG export to Asia, alarmed Russia. So they wanted to maximize to expand their market share in Asian market, not just focused on China. They want to make sure that India and other Asian countries will be their client base as well. So in that aspect, China card is very important, but on top of that, Indian card is also very important. So in that aspect, now we are talking about this confrontation between U.S. people to Asia and then Russia the people to Asia.
And now moving on to some M&A. I mean, we haven't seen much M&A from the Chinese NOCs in the last 3 years, but some politically charged deals have still gone through. Do you think that CNPC will attempt to take part in the partial privatization of state giants like Rosneft or Saudi Aramco?
This is a very important question. Actually, during last 3 years, since President Xi became the president, and then they have been focusing on consolidation of the domestic institutions, in particular the Chinese NOCs. They haven't expanded their overseas expansion simply because of this oil price collapse and then simply because of this corruption issues. But now President Xi himself is trying to consolidate the position of NOCs. Many people were expecting reform initiative will continue, strengthened, but interestingly, in these days, that NOC's position is much more consolidated now. How this Chinese acquisition of this large chunk of equity in company like Rosneft, that is a very important initiative for China. I would put it this way: if CNPC's acquisition of Rosneft 20% equity is materialized, I could call it that will be the entry, starting point of a Sino-Russian strategic partnership. That will be very important, one of the key driving force of their strategic partnership. Of course, this equity position is very important, but another very important one is that is an oil sector deal, but natural gas sector, in particular, Thai gas deal has to be materialized. But then I would say that will be the genuine partnership between the two countries.
And now moving on to Chinese gas demand. Now this is actually picking up pace this year after 2 price cuts in 2015. Does this give you much confidence that Russian gas supplies to China will start on schedule around 2020 or 2021 via the Power of Siberia line?
I would say that actually China's gas demand potential is massive, but the question is that how to balance this domestic production burden with the imported LNG price, because the difference between this LNG price between domestic production and then imported LNG is too much. So how to bear the burden and then how to balance the burden is very important. But I would say from their own projections, by 2030, the scope for LNG and pipeline gas import will be massive. So I would say the chance of expansion will be relatively big. Okay.
Great. And just finally, can you tell me what brings oil and money? What drew you to the event this year? What are you keen to hear?
Because this conference is very important to hear industry leaders talk on this direction they are facing. I mean, they are pursuing, and then the situation they are facing in, and then actually the wisdom they are talking about is very important to understand which direction this industry will head for. So in that aspect, it's a very important conference.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.